Welcome to Kids on the Living Edge, and this is our Week 2 series where we're going to be talking about what's real and what's fake news. Here on Kids on the Living Edge, breaking news. All right, welcome back to Breaking News. This week we're going to be talking about fake news. Now, have you ever heard of fake news? What is it, you might ask? Well, it might be something that was made up, something that didn't really happen. And now I'm going to share with you some stories to see if you can figure out which are fake news. All right, let's play this game. I'll read you a news headline and you give me a thumbs up if you think it's real or thumbs down if it's fake. Here we go. A chihuahua that can't walk befriends a bird that can't fly. Real or fake? That one's real. Who knew? A bird and a dog became friends. A 12-year-old dog graduates college. No, that never happens. Dogs don't like school. All right, here we go. Man arrested for using his phone while riding a horse. Ding, ding, ding. That really happened. Come on, man. Both hands on the horse, okay? All right, here we go. Cold weather in Florida could cause iguanas to fall out of the tree. Ding, ding, ding. That really did happen. Here in South Florida, it got so cold that iguanas that were up in the tree started to fall down. Here we go. Last one. A 10-month-old baby becomes the first ever elected county sheriff. Never happened. Babies can't ride cars. Well, in talking about fake news, I want to talk to you a little bit about our new prophet in this week's lesson, Amos. Now in Amos chapter 5, we learn more about who he is and his message. We know he was a farmer and he was a sheep herder in a place called Judah. But he was called to deliver a word of truth to nearby Israel. And that's really important because Israel was a place where there were a lot of educated people, a lot of people that were very, very religious, means that they went to church a lot, to their synagogues, and they taught and they worshiped. He came from a simple place, but he had something to tell them. Well, he came to tell them that God was not pleased with their worship. That's right. You know, they were not real, or the word is sincere. Now hold on to that word. I'm going to explain it a little bit after our break. But basically it means something is real or true. And they weren't being real or true in their worship. How, you might ask? They were worshiping God. They were even singing songs about him and raising their hands and teaching. But their lives, their actions said something else. That's right. They weren't treating people very nicely. So their actions didn't show who they really were. Well, actually, they did show who they really were, but they didn't show them as real worshipers. So Amos came and prophesied and gave them a word. He told them that the way we love God in all that we do is shown how we love or how we treat others. That's right. God's people should always treat everyone fairly and kindly and live in a way that honors God's name. Well, we got some more information about living the truth of God's word, and being sincere. So let's watch Carl's video and I'll see you on the other side for some more breaking news.
This just in. My name is Carl, and you are my little chicken nuggets. And today, it's going to be a great day.
Welcome to Grow TV. Hosted by Carl, where we have fun with our friends, talk about Jesus, and go over everything the Bible has to offer. Now once again, welcome to Grow TV.
Hey there, kiddos. So glad you tuned in today. We have a lot to talk about. But first, I want to go over something that's very exciting. Do you know how many words there are out there? I mean, there's literally hundreds and thousands of words out there in the universe. And we don't even use half of them or even know about them. Don't believe me? Let's play a game called What's That Word? I'll read a word aloud and you have to guess what it means. Ready? Let's get it. The first word is bumfuzzle. Bum. Okay. This sounds like a word we would describe if we sat down on a chair too hard. Or maybe the funny last name of a football player. Let's see what it actually means. Bumfuzzle, to be flustered, confused, or perplexed. Ha! How cool is that? I get bumfuzzled all the time. Our next word is gardyloo. Man, that's a fun one. If I were to guess what this word was, I would say it's either a city in England, the feeling you get when you're picked first in a game, or the name of a group of flamingos. Let's see what gardyloo actually means. Gardyloo is a Scottish phrase one would yell out the window before throwing their old slop out. Could you imagine just walking down the road and all of a sudden you hear gardyloo, and you look up and you see 4-week-old haggis and mashed potatoes hit you right in the face. Yuck. All right, last word. This word isn't as funny, but I read it this morning and it drove me crazy trying to figure out what it meant. The word is sincere. Sincere. Now when I first read it, I jumped back in my chair because I figured it had to be a bad word, considering the word starts off with the word sin. You see, I don't know if this word is a good word, a bad word, or a funny word like bumfuzzle. I just don't know.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, Cassie. How's it going?
Pretty good. What are y'all up to?
Well, we're trying to figure out what this word means.
What word is that?
Sincere. Because I'm 130% certain that it is a bad word.
I can assure you it's not.
Cassie, it has the word sin in it. How do you explain that?
Well, I guess I can't, but the word means to be honest and genuine.
Could you use that in a sentence?
All right. When Amos was talking in Amos chapter 5,
Oh, I still don't get it.
you see, in that time, Amos was a prophet, and the people of Israel weren't loving and worshiping God like they were supposed to.
They weren't? How so?
They probably thought they were worshiping God in the right way because they sang songs of praise and gave offerings to God.
Is that not worship? I mean, of course that's not. Why don't you go ahead and explain to everybody why that would not be worship per se?
Well, it is worship, but in their case, it wasn't real. The people in Amos's day would worship God and say how much they love God, but then their lives didn't show that they love God at all.
Oh, I see what you mean. Because worship isn't about what we just say, it's about what we do.
Yeah, exactly. When we say we love God in our worship, we have to back that up with our actions. That includes being kind to others and generally trying our best to live in a way that pleases God.
Wow, so worship isn't just about what we do at church. It's about how we live our lives?
Yep, and that's where the word sincere comes in. We show that we're sincere when what we say matches what we do.
Being sincere sounds awesome. I'm gonna try to be more sincere with everyone. But the most important thing is, when I worship God, I can be sincere.
Hey Carl, that's our big idea.
This just in, that's our big idea.
Today's big idea is, when I worship God, I can be sincere.
So let's say it all out loud on the count of 3. Ready? 1,
2,
3. When I worship God, I can be sincere. Yeah. Whoa, I can be sincere. And so can you. And Cassie, too. Sincere. Well, thanks for the help today, Cassie.
no problem. I love having the chance to hang out with my favorite flibbertigibbet.
Excuse me?
You've never heard that word before?
No, that's not a word, is it? It can't be. Is it? Flibbertigibbet? Flibbertigibbet? Flibbertigibbet?
Thanks for watching, kids. See you next week.
Flubbertubby cuppet.
Thank you for watching, and tune in next week for a new episode of Pro TV.
Welcome back. Carl's videos are hilarious and they're awesome. So glad for him joining us this week. So let's talk a little bit more about Amos. Now, God was letting the people of Israel know through Amos that they had not been sincere in their worship. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about that word sincere, S-I-N-C-E-R-E. Now I have in here a little pot that someone made with beautiful paint on it. It's really nice. Back in the days of the Bible, people would make these pots and they would put different liquids inside. Sometimes the liquids were hot, and because of daily use, the pots would get cracked, sometimes even broken. And so someone that was trying to sell a used pot would put the broken pieces together and they didn't have super glue, so they would use wax. That's right, the wax that like the one we use in candles. Well, what happens to wax when it gets really hot? That's right, it melts. And so what would happen was, if I had bought a pot and I didn't know they use wax to cover up the cracks or broken pieces, and I put some hot liquid inside, the wax would melt and the cracks would show and the liquid would pour out, or my pot would fall apart. In order to tell people that they were selling like new pots that didn't have any wax in them, the vendors would put a sign on it, and it would be two words from an old language called Latin. The first word was sin, which means without, and cere, C-E-R-E, wax, without wax. So when I bought this, I knew that it was true. I knew that it was all one piece and it wouldn't fall apart when I used it. So I looked for things that were sincere, without wax. Why did I teach you that? Well, when you worship God, worship Him in truth, in spirit and in truth. That means live your life outside of your worship with God like you would when you're worshiping in front of God. Your whole life should be sincere in its worship. If you love God, you love people. If you want to help someone, you're worshiping God. If you treat them fairly and kindly, you're worshiping God. That's being sincere. That's being true. And that's what Amos came to share. And that's this week's breaking news. In fact, I want to take you to today's big idea. That's right, I got it right up here on our newscast. And that is, when I worship God, I can be sincere. When I worship God, I can be sincere. I can be true. I can be a person that really worships in spirit and in truth. All right. Well, that's all I have for you today. I want you to join me next week as we continue talking about breaking news and meeting more prophets from the Bible here on Kids on the Living Edge.